So let us start the session on the online GIS. So I will start the brief introduction on the internet technology, although for the young people no introduction is required, but still just I will repeat it. You know that today the internet is one of the most popular platform of communications, not only the data but also the for voice communications, for the text messagings, for information sharing, information gathering, information collections, and e-commerce activities, your banking activities, your shopping activity, and so on. But today, if you see the brief history of this technology, it is not a very old technology. In fact, the commercialization of this technology was started sometime in 1990 time period. Although this concept of internet was designed and developed by Department of Defense of United States of America to communicate between the computer system of the defense establishments, and the project was initiated sometime in 1960 time period, and their focus was to build a robust, fault tolerant and distributed computer networks for secure information sharing or data sharing between their defense establishments. And the funding of the US backbone by National Science Foundation in 1980, as well as private funding of other commercial backbones, led to a worldwide participation in the development of new network technologies and the merger of many networks. So here this technology is basically a network of networks. So basically we are integrating many network together and calling it as internet. So here the challenge is to provide the technological standards, but here the ownership is not lies with any single organization or single person. So since, as I told you, this is a network of networks, so that means you can also be part of this networks. You can start sharing your data and informations. You can host your servers. You can host your applications. So there is no restriction on that. If you see quickly the users of the internet technology, this is a one status what I could get from the literatures till March 2020. Around 4.5 billion peoples, over a third of the world's human population have used the services of internet. If you see there, not third, I will say half of the population of the human in the world has used this technology somehow, and the distribution of the users is displayed here. You can see the 50% users of this technology are coming from the Asia, and then around 15.9, around 16% is coming from Europe, and Africa is around 11.5%, Latin America around 10.1%, North America around 7.6%, Middle East around 3.9%, and so on. But here the number of users in our own region, Asia region, are maximum. This is basically due to the population of this region, because maximum people are living in the Asia region. That's why this number is appearing little higher side. But in general, if you see this chart or a pie chart itself is showing us the power of this technology, how powerful is this technology, and you can also see the how it is growing. In fact, you can visit this website, then you can realize that in coming 5 to 10 year time period, in fact, everyone who is having the access to the some electronic device must be using the internet technology for communication purpose. Now, if you see the computation architecture of GIS today is something like this. This is already discussed during our previous sessions, but just I am repeating and trying to link this GIS with the internet architectures. So here what is happening in the GIS, the strength is its central database management system, or data repository is the strength of GIS. So here we manage or store the attribute data, which is basically used for the characteristics of the geographical features, or sometimes this attribute data is also known as the non-spatial data. And second class of data is spatial data. Spatial data basically talk about the location informations in terms of geographical coordinates, in terms of some other methods. Basically we store the information into spatial data. So we know that when we integrate the spatial and non-spatial data together in the database terminology, we can say it as a object-oriented databases. So here the normal or standard data types like your varchar, varchar2, your integers, float, double, date times, or maybe your blob or clob kind of data types may not be sufficient to handle this kind of database into database standard database management system like your Oracle, MySQL, or DB2 or PostgreSQL and so on. So what we require, if you are intended or you are interested to store or manage the geographical data inside your database management system, then your database management systems must support the object orientation in databases. What does it mean? That means I should allow to create the data structures and the operations that can be performed on these data structures I should allow to define in the database itself. So we use the object orientation in databases, and these days all the relational database management systems are basically allowing us to create our own object inside the RDBMS. Like we can store the spatial data, which is a vector data and raster data. In fact, we can also store our multimedia data, which is also one of the typical example of the object oriented databases, basically like your audio songs, your videos, and so on, you can store in the database. But today this technology is slightly upgraded further. Not only the object oriented data, basically, which is also called as structured data, to today our internet platforms, especially by integration of the social media in our systems, you can say that our databases are basically able to handle now unstructured data, which basically include the different types, include the text messages, your photographs, video, audio, multimedia, maps, location informations, or sometimes unclassified information in different formats. Yesterday we talked about the data encodings or character encodings. That time we talk about the Unicode. Similarly, the multilingual environment, people are posting lot of information in the social media. If this kind of unstructured data you are interested to manage, that today we have the different kind of database system exists, like your MongoDB, like you have the Apache Hadoop is there, HBase is there. HBase is beautiful data structure where the structured and unstructured data both can be managed here. So interestingly, this system, which is known as a GIS, is having these all kind of data in the background. So initially we used to use only the structured data, but it include now unstructured data also. Then this data management and the data query system is required, where generally in the standard environments we are using the structured query language when the data is inside the RDBMS or database systems. So we can write the structured SQL statements and we can access this data, we can generate our reports, we can analyze the data, and based on this the output can be converted as a knowledge. In fact, if you apply here some artificial intelligence or any data processing techniques, then it can be converted as a knowledge management also. So here one of the very important point what you should always remember, that in addition to data, the another important uniqueness in this GIS is a model management. We can integrate the different kind of models together, and then we can generate the scenarios for the futures. So like forecasting of any event, and you can also plan, you can do this simulations, you can generate the scenario generations, so that in different cases you can analyze the data, this data, and generate the scenarios for better planning purpose. So here finally the GIS is capable to basically present a decision support systems or a information system, and both can be in a single desktop environment or it can be in the web environment. When we are publishing or developing this kind of system for the desktop environment, then it will be used by a single users. Only one person can use this kind of GIS. But if you convert this architecture into the network based architectures, then the multiple users, sometimes the thousands or millions of users can access this system simultaneously. That's why today the network based geoinformation services are getting very popular, and this is a typical the flow of the information in the network based GIS. Here our users are basically web users. Either they are accessing this information through the web browsers like a thin client or any thick client applications like your Google Earth Engine or Google Earth. So then when the users are sitting here, they are continuously hitting to a single service, And when I say the single server, that means here the computation architecture may be a single tier to two tier, three tier, or multi tier, depending on the requirement of the applications. Basically, developer design these architectures, and then finally they publish the application for the users. So here in between, the one of the very important server application, which is called as a web server, is placed here, and the web server is basically responsible to make a communication between the GIS server and the users. So here the sending requests from the users, processing the request, then responding back to the users. This flow will go this like this. So here it again depends how many such requests we can handle here in the single web server. So then if you have the more number of users other side, then we can convert this architecture to the entire architectures, where the more number of web servers, more number of GIS servers can be configured for the simultaneous access, like we can say like a load balancing, or sometime the high availability configurations like that. So then the user will be satisfied for their queries. And here if you talk about these architectures, these are the major components what basically we required when we are studying the network based GIS. So here the database server is, of course, is very much required here, and this database server is having basically geospatial data or spatial data plus attribute data together. And then we have a typical application server sitting here called as a GIS or map server, and this GIS and map server sometime is a part of the application server itself, and then it will basically communicate between the data servers and the process the user request and respond back through again web server to the users. So this architecture like is a client here, the web browser, thick clients, other web clients like your mobile itself. You can send the request to the web servers, and the web server will transfer this request to the application server, and then application server will decide either this request has to be routed through the GIS server, or directly the application server is capable to handle or is capable to take the output from the database servers. Based on this, this intelligence is inbuilt in the application servers. That is the thing. So here you have to remember the additional components what we required is a GIS server at the host level. So in the client side, nothing. It's a client is simply accessing through the web browsers, or maybe sometime a thick client which is specially designed for the different operating systems. Then in this case, the GIS servers is playing a very important role, because the application servers are not capable to understand the GIS like your SAFE files, TIFF file, IMG file. The application servers are not able to understand. Although these files are, or maybe these data sets are stored in the database servers, but the responsibility lies to the GIS server to understand this request, and then based on the request it process the GIS data and present output to the application server. So here you have to remember the web server like Apache Tomcats, you have the Apache web servers, IES, you have the today Nginx, very popular web servers. So these web servers are basically designed to serve the HTML contents. These web servers are not designed to serve any GIS content. So here ultimately the objective or the task of the GIS server is to convert the geospatial data in the web application compatible format like HTML in the form of JPEG, JPG, or like your GIF format, PNG format. That is the job of the GIS server. So today we will be seeing there are hundreds of GIS servers freely available today in markets. Like you have the Geo server, you have the map servers, you have the in the commercial domain like RGS servers, you have the Apollo servers, Skyline Globe, Terra Explorer. There are so many servers are available, and these softwares you can utilize it. In last presentation also I have shown this slide, but here today it has the more relevance. So now you can see we talk about the GIS database servers, where the relational database management system or object oriented databases are stored here, and when we are processing this data, or we are basically processing based on the query of the users, then ultimately this data is converted in the form of the XML or sometimes the JSON. And when we are converting the data XML to JSON, then we can perform like a visualization activities, data services, data editings, geoprocessing, cataloging, and so on. And these all capabilities are available in the GIS servers. But here you have to remember one important point which is very critical is a data standards. What data standards we are using, how we are designing our system, that matters. So here When I talk about data standard, then there are some international organizations like OGC, which is a Open Geospatial Consortium. You can visit their website. They are one non-profit organization basically designing the standards for the geospatial data sharing, how we can share the data in the public domain. So here, if I talk about the GeoRDBMS, like suppose you take the Oracle as your database system, I take the MySQL as my database system, and third person is taking DB2 or maybe PostgreSQL, but all the client's application cannot understand all the data format. Ultimately, we have to convert the data in the open standard like XML, so that it will be open and can any developer can read or write this kind of standard data sets, and then build the application as per the requirement of the users. So here you have to understand one important technology called as a Web 2.0. You may be aware of this technology. It's basically a interactive web application you can develop by using the Web 2.0, and here the public participation is involved in the web application itself, and this technology is already integrated or is already available in today's environment, like in the social media, like your Instagrams, your Facebook, Twitter accounts, and so on. What you are doing basically, you are getting the application based on the technology called Web 2.0. And this technology, what is giving you basically interactive web applications, so that you can design the application or your page or your login page as per your own taste, as per your own requirement. And for the host, it is just a entry in a database, and when you are seeing this information in the your login account, then you are able to customize it. Now if you compare this kind of interactive web application with the website of a standard organization like ISRO, in ISRO website or IRS website, you can come to the website, you can see the website content, visualization, everything, but you cannot change the look and feel of the contents. It is just a website, right? So here in the Web 2.0 integration, basically we are including interactiveness in the web application. So again, another is a very important is when we are integrating Web 2.0 with the GIS, then this technology is called as a Geo Web 2.0. So when we develop this application, so these are the different technical contents. What you should know about it is basically it provides the web as a platforms. It allows the user participation in the web applications, as we discussed last time, the crowdsourcing or PPGIS, content syndications like your RSS feed of the news. So basically it is basically integrating the live data into your own applications and so on. So here the standards are like XML, extensive markup language, which is basically used for in general it is used for the metadata definitions, but this extensive markup language is having a lot of power. It can be used as a data sharing standard too. So here there another thing is the RSS is a really simple syndications, RSS feed, JavaScript, AJAX, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. These all technologies are available in the server side, and when we integrate with the GIS, it allows the different contents or application like what are displayed in the yellow boxes here. So it is called Web 2.0. So here one important architecture which is very much required is called a service oriented architecture, or we call it just SOA, and this architecture is very popular in the Web 2.0. Here it is a three components in this architectures. One is a very important is a service providers. So the person or the organization who is providing the service is known as the service providers, and the service providers are basically creating the different web services. And here you have to understand the web services are not website, is a basically XML document, or sometimes we call it these days we have also started to develop the JSON documents. Basically we develop these XML documents or XML definition and then publish in the service registry, which is also known as a service broker, and the service consumer will not directly interact with the service providers. They will be looking for service brokers. So these service brokers or basically service registries are hosted on the catalog standards, and then you can find an appropriate data sets here, you can find appropriate organizations, and then it will redirect you into the concerned servers. And once this connection is established, then finally the client and server communication will start here, and then the role of this service provider will stop here. So this service provider is only for the searching of the data or searching of the web services, and finally it will redirect to the host organization. And the same architecture is basically implemented in the spatial data infrastructure or NSDI concept what we discussed yesterday. So here, if you take the example of India, the ISRO or Department of Space is responsible for the acquisition of satellite imageries through our Earth observation satellites, and then Survey of India is a organization, is a mapping organization responsible for providing the different base maps, base layer. We call it the base layer in the GIS. Then similarly, geological maps are available from Geological Survey of India. Forest related maps are available from the Forest Survey of India, and similarly different type of mapping agencies are available in the country. Now as a user, suppose you are looking for a particular map or particular data, so how you will know which data is available with which organization? So you cannot ping or you cannot search for each and every server in the country. In fact, many times you may not be knowing that which are the organization responsible for creation of this kind of maps. In that case, you require a catalog, a clearing house, and that's why the NSDI comes into the pictures. That is a clearing house. Basically it is a service registry. All the map providers or service providers will be uploading their services there, and then with the metadata, so that the user can search the appropriate data based on the characteristics defined in the metadata, and then finally the service registry will redirect to the host server. So this architecture is a very common architecture. In the simplified form I am just displaying here. It is called as a SOA architecture. SOA architecture is having three components. One is a service providers, service brokers, and some service consumer. By adopting the same architectures in the GIS, the Open Geospatial Consortium, or we call it the OGC, has published this architecture in the public domains. So here, just see this slide here, what is shown here. There are different type of standards are available for different data services. From here you can start, and data service, like if you are talking about the features which are stored in the vector data, we call it spatial features. And then we have the web feature service for the vector data. We have the web coverage service for the raster data. Then we have the sensor observation services. We have the grid coverage services, and so on. So these standards are more than 50 such standards already published by OGC, and you can adopt the standards based on your requirement, and then you can start publishing your data in the public domain, so that the objective of this standard is to develop the interoperable applications. So web service published by organization X and the service published by organization Y can be integrated together, so that the user can develop a very interactive web application by implementing the Web 2.0 or GeoWeb 2.0. So here these such standards are available for the data services, portal services, processing services, data encodings, and multi-source integrated application, and so on. And these architectures, what is displayed here, all web service standards are available in the open standards, or open as an open standard, so that easily you can understand and you can write the program for that. So here when you implement these web services or service oriented architecture for GIS, you have to understand two important things: website and web services. Basically, by adopting these SOA architectures or standards, you are developing the web services, not website. So if you see the difference between the website and web services, the website provide the HTML pages and from the human users to navigate and perform the functions like searching, shopping, interaction, and so on. So like a google.com. So, or maybe reddit.com, you can see the different such websites will be available, or website of IIRS, like a www.iirs.gov.in. Here the contents are presented in the form of the HTML, but web services are not website. That these web services are basically for the operations that can be called to written information. So you have to consume the web service, and then you have to interpret the data, you have to write program for the web service, then present to the users, and it invoke the automatically. So if you are interested to access the web services, then automatically it will be available to you if you are knowing how to access the web services. And it is a publicly available, and the target users of web services are developers, the GIS developer, or sometimes the software developers. Basically those are basically able to or are interested to write their own program on top of the web services. I have given the example of website is a google.com. My question is, what is the example of web service? You think about it. So web service, if you see the today's environment, I will give you the example of like your Make My Trip. The Make My Trip is a typical web service environment. So what is happening here? You are able to book the airline ticket of the Air India, of Indigo, SpiceJet, and XYZ together from a single platform. So here, what is Make My Trip is doing? It is basically consuming the web services from the different servers and developing a new applications. In fact, the graphical user interface or searching methods or ticket booking systems what are available in the Make My Trip are totally different than what available in the other websites of other airlines. So that's why you can see the difference here. So one is a static kind of contents and web services are dynamic contents extracted from the different servers. So these are the component already we discussed in graphical slide where the database servers, GIS server, application server, web servers already I discussed about it. So here very important points is the Open Geospatial Consortium, which we should definitely know about it. This non-profit organization is providing the data standard for geospatial data sharing in the public domains, and the vision of the OGC is to develop the standards for the geospatial web services. So they are developing their standard for geospatial web services or geospatial data sets. And their mission is a world in which everyone benefit from the geographical information and service made available across any networks, application or platform. So completely interoperable applications or databases are available based on the OGC standards. So these are the major things. And then what type of service this organization is publishing, what type of standards this organization is publishing. So I will just start from the catalog based services. You know that catalog is a clearinghouse. Examples are like a CS course, CSW, EBRIM, and there are so many such standards are available to publish your data as a catalog. So if you are interested to develop this service registry, then catalog services will help you. The processing services are examples like sensor planning services, web processing services, coordinate transformation services, and so on. What these processing services are doing, they are processing your algorithms, your models on the fly. So here the typical example, suppose you have some system or some algorithm with you and you are interested to share your algorithm to your users. But at the same time, you are interested to protect your copyright and IPR too. So what you will do? You will write a programs and then as a package or sometime as a exe package or some other package, you will be sharing with the users. But here difficulty is the compatibility. Which kind of operating system user is running? Which kind of basically installers are required for different kind of users? And then if you are interested to develop your to modify or upgrade your algorithms, then again you have to share the package. But here in the processing services, it is a very interesting architecture. You develop the process and as a service you can publish into your server, so that any user is coming to your URL can provide the input data required for your model, and the server will process this data and present output to the users. So it is very popular in GIS. Called is a very popular is a web processing services. So WPS is you can develop on top of the GIS servers. So sometimes you may require a little bit programming to write your process, to write your algorithms. So here the Python or R kind of programming language are very much helpful. And then you can publish your algorithms, your models, everything in public domains. Again, it will be interoperable. A third party users or third users can also integrate this WPS in his or her own software applications. Then encoding for purpose also, the OGC provides the standards. There are so many standards available here, and the popular standards are GML, CityGMLs, then KML, or we have a SLD, style layer descriptor. SLD is a standard basically we use basically for the legend display in the online maps. Similarly, KML is for the 3D visualization. This standard is again now is a OGC standard. Initially it was developed by a company called Keyhole, and then this company was acquired by Google in 2006, and in 2008 the KML became the standard of OGC. It is basically encoding standard. Then we have the data services. In the data services, as you know that at least two type of data today, you know, raster and vector data. So for raster data, we have the standard called WCS. For vector data, we have standard called WFS. It's a web feature services. All these standards, whichever I am listing here, it's not complete list. Some of these popular standard I am displaying here in the screen. then these standards you can straightway implement with your database and then start publishing your data. So here you can also implement a proper security mechanism, copyright and everything is taken care if you follow these guidelines, and these are very very popular in the online GIS applications. So data services generally is shared with the authorized users only. If you take the example of ISRO website, you take the example of the NASA website or ESA website, all these space agencies are publishing these data services in their website. You please visit the Bhuvan. We have the portal services like WMS, but at the same time for the authorized users, the WFS and WCS are also available. The next category is a portal services. It is for the visualization of the map. So most popular is a web mapping service or WMS, which is basically used by the host organizations. Basically, when you use the WMS as a standards, it will be used, the output can be used only for visualizations. So no data processing, no analysis is allowed in the WMS. So here in the WMS or WMTS, or we call it a WMTS, is a web map tile services, the digital atlas kind of application you can develop. It's not a full GIS application, but at least I can say it is a visualization application. The other services which are very popular from OGC called GeoXACML, GeoRSS, Geospatial Object, OWS Common. So basically, if you take the example of GeoXACML, this is a it's going to be a very popular web service for the Web 3.0 or for the semantic web, which we are expecting very soon within 3, 4 or 5 year time period. The intelligent or robotic based search engine may be available. So that time this standard called GeoXACML will be very very popular to develop the intelligent or smart GIS application in WebGIS. Although some of the organizations are using this standard, but generally it's not very popular. Still the time has to come. So this is a typical example in the WebGIS environments what you can get today. Like you have the 3D visualizations. Just I have taken few screen captures from the Bhuvan, from the Google Earth, from the Skyline Globe or Terra Explorers. You can see in the web environment we can generate a beautiful 3D maps or 3D effect or full level of details, LOD 1, 2, 3, whatever you are interested. You can develop the beautiful 3D maps, and you same time you can also analyze the data like a terrain profile, slope, aspect, slope with directions. All these analysis are possible, and it is a 3D algorithms and visualizations in the web browser. Interestingly, after integration of your WebGL or like a CGM Globe, so this kind of 3D analysis are possible in the simple web browsers. No need to install any plugins, any thick client applications. Straightway, now you can perform all these kind of operations into the web browsers. Collaborative mapping, I think I have already discussed during the last session. It is another interesting approach in the WebGIS where you can create the online maps. And this is a website very very popular called openstreetmap.org. The vector data on 1:10,000 scale or better than this are freely available for download for entire globe, and also this platform is allowing you to develop your own map in the online. So no GIS softwares, nothing is required, no data sets. You simply log into the accounts and the JavaScript and XML based systems are developed. It will allow you create the beautiful vector maps on top of this web browsers, and then you can save this data into servers. Same time you can download the copy of this data into your local computer too. So these kind of interactive web mapping solutions are possible, and this is a beauty of WebGIS where we can implement the collaborations. So more number of users can be basically allowed to develop the maps or to create the map in the simple browser applications. NSDI already we discussed yesterday. This is an initiative by Department of Science and Technology. Basically, they have adopted the standard of the OGC. They have adopted the SOAP architectures or basically SOAP protocol where they are using for communication purpose. And this is basically a clearinghouse through which you can get the availability of geospatial data with the different mapping organizations, different surveying organizations, or including the space agency of the country. So now we have seen the different technology. We have seen a very brief idea about the concept of the SOAP, the standards, the standard organizations like OGC, their role, type of services, a basic architecture of these solutions, how these web services are developed. Now let us see the examples. So quickly I will run through few more slides and you will have an idea. And whatever website I am going to display now to you, I request all the participants, you just visit this website and just have an idea what kind of data services or web services or web applications these organizations are publishing. So let us see first example is Indian Space Science Data Center, or we call it the ISSDC. If anybody is interested on the planetary science, like your Mars orbiter missions or lunar mission like Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2, so all these data sets for the student community, researchers or academicians are hosted in this website and freely available. And data from the Chandrayaan 2 also now we have opened. So I request if anybody is interested, just visit this website. It is not a web service or WebGIS application, it is a online data repository for planetary science. This is another website called Bhuvan. This is hosted by Indian Space Research Organization at National Remote Sensing Center, Hyderabad. This website is known as a gateway to Indian Earth observation data products and services. The satellite imageries, maps, attribute data in the multi-resolutions, temporal resolution, different time series data sets are available here. So this website is publishing the visualization services based on the WMS and WMTS, data services based on the physical data download, based on the web feature services, web coverage services, data sets are available. Thematic services will allow you mapping and visualization, of course, but also it will allow you to do the data processing based on WPS. So web processing services, you can basically define your area of interest, you can analyze this data on the fly. So in this course it is not possible to give you the full demonstration, but I request all of you to visit our EduSet IIRS YouTube channel, where we have uploaded many demonstrations in Hindi and English language also on the Bhuvan geoportals. So how different kind of mapping services or satellite database services are available in the public domains. This website is hosting around 30 terabyte of data in the public domains, and with your mobile also you can access full data, you can analyze the data, and you can generate the 3D fly-throughs, you can generate the urban planning related projects, you can develop the project related to the rural developments, thematic applications, and so on. This is a data archive. URL is also given here. We called it NRSC Open EO Data Archive. Here the satellite data, digital elevation models, and the satellite data from the AWIP sensors, list 3, all are available. You can search for appropriate data, and this data we are updating on a certain time intervals. If you take the example of AWIP sensors, at least 3 times in a year we update this data. Similarly, ortho product of list 3 sensors, which is having 23.5 meter spatial resolutions, this data is also updated once, at least once in a 5 year. So it depends on the availability of the data and the policy of the organizations. And interestingly, the data product hosted in NRSC website are ortho corrected or ortho rectified data. That means you can create maps of better quality from or by using these satellite imageries. This is a typical example how you can access the data. You can have a very interactive web GUI, and then you can browse the data, or grid wise you can download, topo sheet wise you can download. You can also design or draw your own area of interest, AOI or region of interest. So it will select all the grids and then you can download the data. And the tables what will be displayed for data visualization will have the different dates. You can see the time series data sets are available, and you can also have a quick look of the data, either these satellite images are cloud free, or if there is a problem in the image or not, So all this information will be available for the quick look, and you can then, if you satisfy, you can download this data. This is a typical example of the thematic services. In this particular mode, you can visualize the maps, all the thematic maps, and then you can also analyze these maps on the fly. So here data analysis is possible right from the state level, national level, then come to the your district level planning purpose. Also you can use these services, and at the same time you can also design or define your own interest area of interest. Then you can analyze this data on the fly. This is it. These are the few screenshots of these thematic services. I am showing you the land use land cover map, but it is not limited to land use land cover map. We have more than 15 or 20 just such themes available there. Based on your interests, you can browse this data and then you can analyze. But here you have to make a note, these thematic maps are not available for physical data download. So these maps are available as a web service. You can consume as a WMS, or if you are an authorized users, you can also consume as a WFS. The physical data download is not allowed. This is architecture adopted by Bhuvan for thematic services. However, in case of satellite imageries, you can download these data sets as a physical data products, and you can save to your local computer also. This is a website, National Biodiversity Information System. It is hosted at IIRS Dehradun. URL is also shown, https bis.iirs.gov.in. This is a project specific website what we have hosted in our servers. At least last 15 years this data sets are available in the public domain, but interestingly now you can download these all the products as a physical data. You can consume as a WMS, WFS, WCS and so on, and it is a very interesting website. I request all of you to just visit and see what kind of data or maps we are publishing here. But in the background, either it's a Bhuvan or BIS, so we are using completely the open system architectures. All the open source softwares are free or products only we are using. No commercial softwares are used here, and then lot of data analytics are built based on the user's requirement. This is for disaster services under ISRO disaster management support programs. Although earlier it was available as a separate service, but now we have integrated with the Bhuvan. So here the this flood hazard zonation maps of different flood prone states of country are available. So for planners, basically you can analyze, and these data sets are available at the village level. So you can search for a village, either this village is coming under the high flood prone zone or low or moderate or and so on. But here the interesting thing is the maps available in this website, or flood zonation maps available in this website, are based on the temporal data or time series satellite imageries which are available in the repository of ISRO. So we have basically analyzed the flood frequency of a particular location. Last 10-year or 20-year data is analyzed. Based on this, the zones are defined, and then the maps are created and published in this website. This is for forest fire. This is very popular. Again in the Bhuvan it is available. Earlier it was a separate application. So what we are doing, using the MODIS Terra and Aqua sensor, the temperature profile of the land surface temperature is created, and based on this we basically run the fire algorithms, and the temperatures crossing a certain threshold level is detected as a fire, and then we overlay the forest boundaries and then publish as alerts to the at least up to the range officer or district divisional forest officer DFO level as a SMS through the through Forest Survey of India. But complete algorithm development, acquisition of data, everything is happening in our Earth station in Sadnagar in Telangana. Then basically we run these algorithms and publish the point location to the Forest Survey of India for further dissemination. We also do a lot of modeling activities on the forest fire in the real time mode. It is available from the IRS website, especially for the mountain regions of this of India, like Uttarakhand, Himachal, JNK, this area. We are basically generating the advisories or forest fire risk map on daily basis, and running the model in the servers and publishing the output to the our website and sending as a message or SMS as a point location to the range officers for appropriate decision or action at the ground level. This is a very interesting website, again developed by ISRO and Department of Biotechnology. What is happening here? It is a gateway or clearinghouse of a Indian Bioresource Information called the IBIN, Indian Bioresource Information Network. Here the data from the different bioresource data providers are hosted, data on the flora and fauna, and this website is giving you to search a appropriate species based on their characteristics, based on their medicinal importance, their endemic natures, and also based on the location you can search what kind of medicinal plants are available, what kind of fauna is there. So all these things are available in the single platforms. Again, it is based on the technology called WebGIS or Geo Web Services. It is basic idea is a distributed network or distributed network of databases basically related to the bioresources are available in this domain. Another popular website is India Water Resource Information System. This is again developed by Central Water Commission and Department of Space jointly. Here the groundwater related information, surface water related information of India is available. Last 100-year data is hosted in this website, and more than 35 sub-information system on the base data, hydrometeorological data, water quality, surface water, groundwaters, and so on. All this information is hosted in this website. The fully WebGIS enable applications where the maps are available, data analysis is available, you can generate the report, you can analyze the data, all these things live from this website itself. These are the few examples what I have shown here, but not limited. I have also uploaded one very special session on the different data repositories on online data repository in our YouTube channel. So there also you can see either you are from the urban planning, you are from the disaster management, you are from the forestry, based on your interest, different lecture sessions are available. So what kind of data repositories are available, what kind of tools are available, what kind of web services or geo web services are available in the public domain. So I request all of you to watch these videos and see how it can be useful for you. So I think that's all from my side for today's sessions. I hope you must have enjoyed this very quick and rapid sessions where technology application both were both together integrated.